Hello again. Now in this session, we're going to see a video with Sarah Wun, and then Sarah will join us to give us a little more information and answer some of your questions. So here's the video.
I tried everything to cover it up. Maybe if I cut my hair this way or get bangs or something, I don't know, whatever. It's not going anywhere. It's just a scar. When people look at me and wipe their nose, I get really self-conscious. Are they actually trying to tell me that my nose is running? Or, oh, I don't have something coming out of my nose. It's just a scar. I just want it to go away. That bump, that squiggle, that unflattering piece of skin that reminds me that I'm different. I'm abnormal. I look abnormal. Wipe your nose. Ew. Ew. That's gross. What's wrong with your lip? Your nose is running. You should. That's gross. Wipe your nose. Ew. You're ugly. You're ugly. You're ugly. What's wrong with your lip? That's ugly. Ew. What's wrong with your lip? Ew. You're ugly. What's that thing on your face? In middle school, I didn't wear makeup because, well, what's the point? I'd have to wear so much of it, and it's not gonna cover it up anyway. It never does. People and their suggestions, their opinions, I can't cover it up. It's not going to work. It doesn't work. I look in the mirror and there it is. Sometimes it's all I see. Sometimes it's all I think about. There it is. Why is this so hard? The painful part is over, right? My hearing is better, my breathing is better, I can eat, I can suck, I'm not a baby anymore, I'm not in pain. The surgeries are over, so the painful part is over, right? It's just a scar. It's not just a scar, it's my life. I want to rip it off my face. I want it gone. Why won't it go away? I don't want to see this anymore. I don't want this. Why would you want to get rid of something so special? Your cleft lip and palate makes you you, and I love you, so I love your cleft lip and palate. I don't want you to change. You're beautiful. and unique, and you have the best smile in the world. So, did your mom do a lot of drugs when she was pregnant and that's why your face is messed up? Once upon a time, there was a baby girl born with a facial difference, and this girl had the best smile in the world. She was unique and beautiful, and one day, she was reminded of that, and she never stopped smiling. I was born with a unilateral cleft lip and palate. It has colored my life and helped to shape me into the person I am today. It gives me a story, and that's something to smile about. Ooh, all right. Hello. Um, hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here and for watching my video. I'm hoping that we can just have kind of a Q&A type thing. But I want to start with a couple of questions that have been asked of me a lot. And then, yeah, I'll hopefully get to your questions as well. So a lot of people say like, okay, how did this start? Like, where did it come from? How did it all begin? So I made this video after I moved to Hong Kong and I started acting classes. And it's just a hobby. And I met a couple of friends who were like, hey, we should get together and film stuff, just film random things. Like, does anyone have a story? And I'm like, well, I could talk about, something unique about me that not everyone knows about. And they're like, oh, what is it? I'm like, well, I was born with cleft lip and palate. And both my friends were like, what? What's that? And so I was talking to them about it and just about a couple of like defining moments. And I remember my friend Rohan, who helped to film it, was like, you need to do something with this. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And I wavered a lot um, about it. But the reason why I was able to do it and to share my story is just because I thought about younger me who didn't have this. And I'm like, you know what? She deserves this. And this is my story. It's not anyone else's story. So my friends were like, you have complete like creative license, and like if it makes you uncomfortable, we'll stop. It was really, really touching. They were so sweet. I had only known these guys for like 2 months. So they were really supportive. And my acting coach also said, like, find what makes you unique, because there's like a million of you. Like, for example, he's like, if you walk into an audition for a female presenting person with brown hair, he's like, there's going to be millions of those people. He's like, but if you walk into a room and you're like, hi, my name is Sarah Wun, and here's something that perhaps not many people can speak on. I have a cleft, and here are all the experiences that have come from this. Um, you know, to someone looking, it might be just a scar, as I say in the film, but it's so much more. And to be honest, I didn't think people cared about my story, but the more I talked about, "Oh yeah, I have this film, best smile in the world," and I'm like, "It's," and I didn't even call it a film. I'm like, "Oh, I have this little thing," because so what happened was the day where we booked a studio, and uh, I wrote a script, which essentially was me, being upset, and then my boyfriend at the time saying, "What do you mean you hate your scar? I love you. I love your scar. Therefore, I love you," and that kind of thing. And it was supposed to be there's supposed to be more than one person in the film, and we ended up just getting rid of that script. And my friend Eugene, who filmed the stuff from like outside, was like, "This should just be you." And he's like, "This is your story. It's more powerful that way." So, what it was literally just I said, "My idea is I look in the mirror until I'm uncomfortable, like really, really, really uncomfortable, and I'm just gonna think whatever comes up. Like I'm just gonna stare at my scar, and whatever comes up, I'm just gonna feel it. I just want you guys to film." And you know, so we did that, and it was like maybe we were in the studio for about 2 hours, so I was like, every now and then I'm gonna need a break. I'm like, but at the times where I was like, "Okay, I really wanna look away," those were the moments where I was like, "Keep filming, keep filming, keep filming." And I knew I wanted to draw on the scar and then put the like mustache, because in my opinion, if I'm staring and staring and getting more and more uncomfortable, what's going to make me more uncomfortable than if I highlight it and actually start making funny faces in the mirror? I use humor as a defense mechanism, so it's just kind of my way of like embracing the discomfort. So that's kind of my inspiration, just came from being like, you know what, this is unique. I don't think many people have this kind of story to share. And so I filmed it even before my very first virtual ClefCon, which was a couple of years ago. And at that ClefCon, I remember saying, "Well, I have like film pieces. I think I want to make a movie out of it." And some of the incredible people who are probably here today were like, "Yes, do it." And so I did. So thank you, thank this community for like making it happen. And I hired an outside editor because it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm too close to this project, and I am getting very emotional and sensitive about it, because people are like, wow, you're so confident, you're so strong. And that's not true every day. Sometimes it's a lot harder than other times. And remembering those moments that got me to feel whatever I felt when I was looking in the mirror, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I hope that that kind of makes sense in terms of my purpose for doing it. I knew it wasn't going to be like, I knew it was going to be very artsy. And I had a feeling that some people might be like, okay, what is this actually about? But it didn't need to be like a linear, logical narrative for me. It was more a cathartic piece as well. And I wrote the monologue over it after I had edited everything together. I watched it through and I just kind of spoke, which looking back, I think I'd do things differently, but I'm quite pleased with how it ended up. And there were a couple of really key things, key phrases, key moments that I really wanted to be in the movie and that are still hard for me to hear. Like when my roommate in college said to me, "So, did your mom do a lot of drugs? And that's why your face is messed up." Which is something that even when I say it, I'm like, "Ooh, that really hurts." but the more I say things, the easier they get. Um, so it's one of those kinds of things. Okay. Oh, people are writing. This is great. I'm just gonna scroll through and find some stuff. I apologize if I miss a question. Let me see. Yes. Okay. I love this. Linda. Hi. Thank you for this. Can you share some of the key messages or takeaways that you might gain from the documentary? So, number one, which is very similar and relatable to what people have been talking about in the conference, everyone has a story. And this is just mine, but it's worth a share. Like I said, I didn't think people would care about my story, but that's not the point. I care. So it's important. So even if you think like, well, I don't know, like share it. And I think it was Aaliyah who in one of the other um, sessions who was saying like, however you want to share, share. Believe in yourself and um, embrace the discomfort is definitely like my main thing um, because it's in those uncomfortable moments that you find like you can kind of chip away at your vulnerability. So growing up, like for the first 30 plus years of my life, you know, I'd look in the mirror, like you go into the bathroom, you look in the mirror, you're like, hey, what's up? That's me. But I never really looked at myself. And then when I was in acting class, we were kind of forced to like look at ourselves up close. Did a lot of self-taping where it's like up close and personal, you know, and I can't go on what side I want to. It's just like if I'm on a film set, a director's going to use any like take he wants or he or she wants. So I have to get my acting teacher was like, you need to get up close and personal with yourself. And I was like, whoa, that's a big statement. I had never done it until I started watching myself on film. And I'm like, oh, all I see is my cleft lip. That's all I see at the time. But now after doing this film and after starting to go like, well, hang on, there's other things about, whoa, my hair is this length. Oh, my glasses are pink. Like you start to see yourself and I don't know. It just you become bigger than your cleft, if that makes any sense. I don't know. That kind of thing resonates with me. So the biggest message for me is embrace the discomfort. Uncomfortable things are great. Uh, dive in. Fear can be a beautiful tool because once you like overcome a fear, it just feels so good. Suppose the fears of parents. You are very welcome. Thank you, Anastasia, for saying that. I've received lots of messages from parents saying, "Thank you so much. I want to watch this with my child," and that means the world to me because that's the goal. That's the intention. Again, 16-year-old me, 14-year-old me, that girl who didn't wear makeup growing up because what's the point? Didn't have any place to go or to look, you know? I've now got fierce, amazing, legendary inspirations who have taught me that lipstick is amazing. I mean, the New York ClefCon, I was putting on lipstick from Citizen Cosmetics. Steph, if you're here, hi. And I was almost in tears because when I put on lipstick, I get uncomfortable. I it's just something that happens, but I've learned to embrace that discomfort and know that it's my own perception, it's not even other people aren't viewing me like that, I'm viewing me like that. So I need to kind of go back and go like, "Hang on." And again, what my boyfriend at the time, now husband, because of course I married someone who would say, "Your cleft is a part of you and I love you, therefore I love your cleft." He's the first person I think ever in my life to say that. He was so confused as to why I was so upset about having a facial difference. He was like, what are you talking about?" He's like, "That's you." And actually, he said this to me maybe 2 weeks ago, and it's so sweet. Um, you know, because like every now and then he's like, "Ah, you're beautiful," you know that kind of thing. But what he said to me, he's like, "You know what I love? You're not boring." He's like, "You don't look boring," which I personally find that such a compliment. I don't look like other people, and that is such a plus. I'm interesting. I was like, "Oh, well, thank you very much." I don't know. I'm a little all over the place just because 'cause I'm very excited. and it's 2 a.m. But thank you so much for that. Let's see. Do you remember how old you were when you realized you're different from other people? Oh, Vivian, that's a really good question. Um, I was like growing up, I never really knew I was different. To be honest, one thing I'm not sure if this was is relatable to other people. I'd be very curious about what other people think. When I was growing up, I thought that everyone went to the hospital. I thought everyone had surgeries. I just thought that was part of life. And I remember meeting people when I was in um, when I had my bone graft in high school, when I was in like grade 10, I think I was 15. Yeah, 15. Um, and people being like, "Oh, I've never been to a hospital," or "Oh, I've never had surgery before," and being like, "What? Really?" I mean, I remember, I think it was grade 5. Yeah, I was 10 years old. 10 years old when I had a surgery on my scar where I had to have stitches over it, and they were black stitches, so it was obviously extremely noticeable that I had a procedure. So I was like, "Okay, I'm different." But looking back on that experience, I don't remember it being negative. Um, I don't remember having a rough time at school. I remember feeling very anxious and having so much anxiety, "Oh, someone's gonna say something at school about my stitches," and no one did, which was beautiful. But, yeah, I think about, I'm gonna say, like, 10, and then again when I was, like, a teenager, I was like, "Okay, wait a minute. This is very different to other people's lives." So, it was quite later on, you know? Um, yeah, I had a really nice upbringing in terms of it's like, "Oh, yeah, Sarah's got another procedure. Oh, yeah, yeah." It was very normalized, and I just didn't realize other people didn't have that stuff. I thought when everyone got a head cold, it was for, like, a month or 2. I didn't understand commercials that were like, "NyQuil, take it, and then in the morning, you don't have a cold." I'm like, "Really? Why are they lying on TV?" I didn't, realize that, right? Oh, distinct memory, I don't relate to that. Yeah, yeah, it was always the weirdest thing to me. The surgery was just such a big part of growing up with a cleft that it's just like, "Oh," and even breathing out of one nostril better than the other, um, even, sometimes people would be like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Your breathing is really heavy." And I'm like, "Oh." And I usually just say, "Oh, I'm yoga breathing." And it didn't occur to me until pretty late in my life that I'm like, "Wait, I breathe a little differently because I have a cleft lip." Um, it was pretty late. What advice would you give to parents to support their daughters? Oh, I love, oh, my heart. Um, I think my biggest piece of advice, I'm trying to think about, growing up, I was a pretty shy kid in terms of I didn't really want to talk about it with my mom, or I didn't want to talk about it with anybody, because I thought no one could understand. And I think my biggest piece of advice would be, um, not only to be open, but be patient as well. I retreated a lot as a kid, and one thing that I really appreciate that my parents did was they kinda let me do my own thing. They were never pushy. Um, I would've I don't think I would've minded if, my mom was like, "Hey, do you wanna talk about it?" But at the time, I was a very closed off teenager. So if, you have a child who's a little more closed off, encourage them to find an outlet. It doesn't have to be direct. I think my biggest piece of advice is, yeah, the outlet does not need to be, I'm going to talk about my cleft today. It can be, I do aerial arts and it's quite painful. And if I've had a bad day, I'll spin on the hoop, and that's like my saving grace. So yeah, be open, be patient, let them have an outlet, tell them that they're not alone and that there are, all kind of like the basics. But I think patience is probably a big one. And my mother, the legend that she is, was a very, very, very patient person, still is to this day, because I like to talk, but very, very patient person. And I'm thinking of the conversations I had with my mom, specifically about my cleft. Um, and I remember her saying a lot of like, "I'm sorry that happened to you," because that's all she could say. And at the time, it pissed me off because I was like, "Well, I need your answers," but she was listening. So the listening is is enough. Just being there, be open, be patient. Sorry, I'm repeating myself a little bit. My 14-year-old son just ran over when you mentioned breathing. Yes! This is the thing. The whole idea of like, we're not alone, someone has part of my story. I mean, that's the best thing ever, because this is so isolating sometimes, you know? Um, Yeah, it can be really hard. One thing that I do want to say, because a lot of people are like, "Wow, you're really strong," like, to be able to make something like this. It wasn't easy, and it definitely was one of these things where I was, like, hiding my eyes and submitting, you know? Um, because I'm a very sensitive person, and sometimes I think I've seen a lot before, like, kids are really sweet, kids are really innocent. I'm a teacher as well, and if my students do this, I immediately wipe my nose. I think I always will. It's a trigger for me. I'm like, "Oh," I just constantly get very, like, on edge about that. I don't think that makes me less confident. I think it's just something that is within me but that's about me, it's not about them. But, because people will say like, "Oh, they're just a kid. They're just a kid." And I'm like, I'm aware of that, and their intentions are not wrong. But I am allowed to feel upset, and I am allowed to feel uncomfortable or like, "Oh, man, stop telling me to wipe my nose." I feel like you're allowed feel your feelings. Like, you're allowed to feel. Um, One thing that I got growing up, another point actually about parents supporting children. Um, Growing up, I had a fantastic time growing up. But one thing that I wish was a little bit different, I grew up in a different time. Um, Crying was not necessarily a strength. And so I often was told, stop crying, stop crying, stop crying. And I don't like that. As someone who acts a lot and does a lot of acting classes, a lot of my scenes have to do with anger and have to do with tears. And it is so cathartic and therapeutic to feel your feelings. We're not just happy and sad. There's a whole wheel of feelings that we are allowed to tap into as long as we do it in a healthy way. So, another way to support a child who might be struggling with anything, not even, it doesn't even have to be cleft related, is let them feel. Um, I wish I was allowed to cry more. And I am allowing myself that time now to work through some of the things that maybe in my mind I wasn't allowed to work on when I was a teenager. That's just my own perception, though. I'm sure I could have, but I didn't feel safe at the time. Yeah. What do you teach? I'm a cover teacher, so I do pretty much, well, I teach English literature is like my thing. I teach English as a second language. I live in Hong Kong. I've lived overseas for a while. I just finished a humanities cover, so I covered a maternity leave. So I've been off for a week and now I'm doing performances. I'm performing actually in a puppet show on Wednesday. It's like kind of a life-size puppet, and I think this is very important because I'm struggling right now with a bit of self-esteem appearance stuff as a performer, as an actor. So I'm so happy that I get to wear a puppet because then and it's for a kids show, so I have to be really dynamic with my face. And I'm allowing myself to just be like, okay, they're going to be watching the puppet, not you. So it just be free to be as vulnerable as you want. So English, drama, I taught drama last year, and humanities is what I teach. And I also have a master's in sexual health education, but that's going to need like at least 6 more hours to discuss that. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Sarah, for sharing your cleft journey with us. I'm sure there was something for everybody in that presentation. And I want to remind everybody else also, please don't forget to share your cleft journeys with us using the tribute page, which is the tab on the left. And don't forget to take a selfie in our photo booth. All right. That's enough out of me. See you at the next session.